Good morning, good evening, and good afternoon, wherever you are in the world. Thank you so much for tuning in to another episode of Market Check brought to you by BB. Today, we have titled the show, Let's Talk About Alt Season, Market Check. Now, the team is doing a little bit of traveling right now. Obviously, it's January 3rd. We've got people traveling for, Christmas and New Year's and stuff like that. But just because the team is a little bit spread out and busy right now, doesn't mean that we take the day off, because today you have me, Max, and Louis T, also known as Louis Meatstick, one of our top analysts here at BB. We're going to break it all down for you guys and have a fun discussion. And I'll tell you, some of my favorite episodes of Market Check, I think maybe ever, have come when it's just like a one-on-one. I've done a few one-on-one market checks. Like, it's usually around like a holiday time, or usually holidays when the team is traveling and a little bit busy. But when we can make a one-on-one cook session happen, it's a really fun discussion. Like, you just get to press the other person and really dive deep on the charts. And I'm excited because I don't think that Louis and I have done a solo stream together ever. And I think that's a problem, honestly. Well, I mean, up until right now. But to start off my first market check episode of 2025 being a solo cook session with Louis Meatstick, I feel like that's really setting off 2025 in the right way.
Oh
So
yeah.
I guess you guys can let me know, but I'm excited about this one because Louis Louis is going to show you some meat sticks today, and we're starting to look a little bit perky. So I'm really excited. But guys, before we get into it, do me a solid. All right, do me a solid. Jim told you what you need to do right here. Hit that like button before we get too deep into it. I don't want any distractions today. That's the thing. I don't want any distractions. I don't want any soybeans. I don't want anything. Maybe no natural rubber futures, no cotton candy futures, none of that. Let's just hit the like button. All right. I wasn't here yesterday, but I'm here today. So I'm going to be a little bit on top of you guys for the like button. But anyways, guys, all right, let's see how we're looking here. Good, good, good. All right, Louis, first of all, I'm excited to do this stream with you. Second of
Likewise.
all, how are you doing? And let's just talk a little bit first. Like,
Yeah.
what's the overarching theme of the next, like, let's just do first half of 2025. Like, given what happened in 2024 towards the end, what are you expecting for the first half of 2025? And I know you posted an awesome video on your X account, so you probably you did I watched it. You probably shared a lot of that already, but some people here probably haven't watched it yet. So spoil it a little bit for us.
Yeah. Well, 2025, right? Glad to be here. We made it another year. So historically, right, if we're talking data, 2025, or a year coming out of the halving year, the Bitcoin halving year, a year coming out of the election year, have a new president coming in to office in the next couple weeks. Historically, we've seen a majority of the gains for Bitcoin and altcoins in this year. I don't know if you guys have seen the ETH like seasonality percentage gain. I don't know if Max can pull that up, or we have that on BB Terminal. Mm-hmm. But the next 3 or 4 months are usually historically the strongest performing months for ETH. And along with ETH, that also comes with the rest of the altcoin market. And I think that's exactly what we're going to see again, right? Let's actually go to a different chart here, so I can give you guys a visual on what I'm talking about. And this is the others chart. Let me put this in long here.
Louis, did you want me to pull up the monthly returns for ETH?
Yeah, we could, right? I think that's important, right? So this is.
We'll pop it up real quick.
Yeah, let's look at
that.
All right,
here you go. All right, you can narrate for us. You brought it up.
Yeah, so I mean, historically, we've seen, looking at specifically, I mean, almost every year, right? But specifically the halving year, like the years following a halving year, you have 2021, and you have 2018 or 2017. Let's look at 2017, right? And even 2016. If you look to the bottom left of this chart we're looking at here, that represents January, February, and March, right? So if you go up to 2016, you see those first 3 months, January, February, March, on the bottom left. Those are all sizable gains for ETH, right? So January, 142%, February, it's like 104%, and then March, a 50% gain. And that's not even coming out of a halving year, right? And then the following year, 2017, everyone knows the famous 2017 Bitcoin and altcoin ICO craze run, right? Again, you're seeing the first, 5 or 6 months of the year, extremely positive months for ETH. And that's what, this is the data that we're dealing with. And then if you want to jump to the next cycle, which would be 2021, right? 2021, again, 4 months back to back of green price action for ETH. So this is the data that we have, right? We're not just moon boys. We're not pulling this out of left field. The data suggests that the years following a halving year and an election year, ETH, has historically done a bulk of its, gains that people are attracted to crypto from, right? So that's the theme, right? The theme is ETH, hasn't really been trading well. I mean, I would argue that people are saying that, but we've made a massive run off the lows for ETH. And it's actually right on schedule. Because like I've just showed you, starting January, it's like almost like a light switch, where ETH kind of turns it on, and really, turns the gas up and starts putting in those meat sticks to the upside, and giving those historical gains that we've seen. So I think the theme, is all eyes on ETH, and all eyes on altcoins, as well, because if you want to go back to the chart I was just showing, this is a chart of others, right? So it's basically a majority of all the altcoins in the crypto market. Obviously, you take out some majors out of there. But this, generally speaking, it represents a basket of all altcoins in the market. And each of these black lines represents January 1st. So, I mean, if you asked
That's January 1st following a Bitcoin halving year.
correct.
Right?
Yeah. So January 1st following a halving year, and an election year. So right now, where we are right now is here, right? We're in January. This is the month, the January following a halving year. January 2021, same thing. In January 2017, same thing. And what you notice about this chart when we're just looking at the altcoin market as a whole is that when January hits, cyclically, we see a majority of our gains on altcoins come after we pass into January, right? I mean, it's very clear. We have 2 examples of this. Obviously, 2021 is slightly different than 2017. It's not always going to be the same exact thing. And generally, something else I noticed is that the timing is very cyclical as well, right? So from basically the start of January to where we peak is about 365 days, right? From January to January, we saw our peak in 2017. Again in 2021, from January 2021, we kind of did a double top here, but we remained elevated and even created new highs all the way into, again, January of 2022. So what is the theme going into this year? The theme is altcoins, right? Just looking at this chart and given the data we just showed you on ETH, this is the time of the 4-year kind of cycle band that you want, if you want to look at it in 4-year cycles, where everything kind of turns up and you see, and you will realize 80% of your gains in this last 20% of the market cycle. And that's where you really catch the meat of the move. And that's what this chart's showing us. So again, coming into January after a halving year, after an election year, we're even starting to see it this morning. We saw it even early as yesterday, right? Like January 2nd, bang, ETH starts turning around, alts start looking like they're putting in bottoms, Bitcoin kind of rallying back after consolidating for about a month or so. And we're seeing it start to play out once again. So in my opinion, the theme is ETH, the theme is altcoins, and the theme is a bullish outlook on crypto and altcoins going throughout the year of 2025.
Yeah, I don't think anybody's going to be surprised to hear that I that I completely agree with you.
Yeah.
And it's really not even a debate. Like you really, as a crypto participant, you have to have that mindset going into it because there is so much data and evidence to suggest. And to be fair, we've only really had a couple cycles. It's not like we have 20
Right.
data points to go off of, but you have to look at it and go, all right, this cycle hasn't been different so far. It
Yeah.
hasn't been. Like Bitcoin is
Slightly,
right
but
on
really
track.
not. Yeah.
ETH is right on track. Others in total three right on track. ETH BTC right on track. And I've got a chart for ETH BTC. I'm going to show you guys in a little bit. So why would this cycle be the exact same as every other cycle that we've ever had? And again, it's only, a few. Why would it be the exact same as every other cycle up until the last 6 to 9 months? Why suddenly would we diverge right now? You know, and you could tell me a whole bunch of different things. You could be like, well, we're in QT technically, we're not in QE yet, and there's some macroeconomic indicator that's in contraction. Well, there's always a macroeconomic indicator somewhere that's contracting, but holistically, the whole picture looks pretty damn good, right? So
Yeah.
I think you really have to have this mindset and in a way, kind of left curve it and be like, okay, like think about like the left curve guy and the right curve guy, right? Like the 75 IQ guy and the 140 IQ guy, both being like, this time is not different. It's alt season. And then the guy in the middle is like, well, no, no, no. Some province in China, blah, 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 blah. It's in contraction. There's a fact like, no, this time hasn't been different. It probably won't be different. I don't think it's bold to suggest that this time won't be different. I think it's more bold to suggest that this time will be different and that we're going to suddenly like derail and diverge from the decade long cyclical pattern that's been playing out and has been playing out. So I think this
Yeah.
is a great chart, Louis. So are you really just kind of expecting like, hey, it's January, Trump is getting inaugurated in, less than 3 weeks. It's time, like the time for altcoins and being positioned in altcoins is right now. Or do you think there's any
100%.
more like one more sweep of the low kind of things that are coming up?
I mean, look, price is going to do what it's going to do. I don't have a crystal ball. I mean, but we are coming into, like I said, we're coming into that last 20-25% of the cycle. So if we are going to mess around, sweep some lows, it needs to happen quickly, right? Because we do have time on our side, but we don't have that much time. So I'm not expecting, multiple more months of ranging on ETH specifically, as well as altcoins. Obviously, over the past 12 months, we've had different altcoins take turns popping off left and right, and people have been making money. But a majority of the altcoin market has yet to kind of pump in unison. Are you losing me here? Oh, okay. I thought I was.
Oh,
I
I
thought I
didn't,
was
I wanted
lagging.
to just pull this up
No,
so I
that's
could talk about
perfect.
it when you're done,
Yeah,
but
that's
keep going.
perfect. But yeah, I mean, I think the time is now. If you've been here this long, your time to just hold your altcoins or get into altcoins is now, and just to sit on your hands and wait for the market to do the hard work for you. Especially, obviously, Trump coming in. This is the most bullish crypto president we've ever seen. Crypto kind of taking that main stage and really kind of becoming, like retail adopted, government adopted at this point. So I mean, everything's kind of aligning up for another, great year, post halving year for altcoins. And like Max was saying, and I started my sorry, my eyes like bothering me. I barely slept last night. I'm like itch. I started my video off yesterday basically saying like, yeah, like I totally understand that just looking back at history and saying, yep, the same thing's going to happen over and over again. Like it's not the most intelligent and smart sounding thesis and idea. And I totally understand that. Um, but at the end of the day, it's so simple that people tend to outsmart themselves and they try to outsmart the market and they go, well, there's no way that it's that easy, or every 4 years we're going to see almost the identical setup and scenario play out over and over and over again. There's just no way, right? And that's kind of like what that left curve kind of look that you said, where like they kind of outsmart themselves. They're thinking it's not, because I feel like from the outside looking in, like me going, oh yeah, every 4 years we're gonna do this and price go up, and oh yeah, and like, oh, this guy's an idiot. He just, he's just a perma bull. But in reality, it's been playing out again, since basically the bear market lows in 2022. The market has been following that same exact cycle once again. And like you said, like, why would we basically follow this same 4-year cycle almost to a T, and not complete it and finish the last 20% of it? And I would say, does human greed still exist? Because if human greed still exists, then yes, we are going to see this last part of the cycle, because this is the greed part of the cycle. This is the part of the cycle where people are starting to take profits, whether it's from the stock market, whether it's from Bitcoin, whether it's from anything, right? And then they start looking more farther and farther down the risk curve to find a more ROI on their returns, to find a max return, and shoot for those, those big 10 to 100x gains that everyone, is attracted to crypto from. So if human greed still exists, then I believe these cycles will continue to exist, because humans tend to make the same emotional decisions when it comes to money and investing time and time again, pretty much throughout history. So if human greed exists, this cycle will continue to exist, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I would add on to that and say that human greed probably, it's only going to continue to spiral in a more aggressive way because
Yeah.
of the necessity to kind of gamble your way out of a fickle financial situation, or in a general sense, a financial landscape that is really tilted against you. And this is the terminal real quick. I wanted to show you guys, we're talking about how this cycle hasn't been different. We just added this onto the terminal. You guys have seen me, I've manually made this chart and shown you guys 100 different times. But here's the previous 2 Bitcoin cycles overlaid with the current one right here. And you can see that, this cycle has not been different than previous ones. Like, look at this right here. Last cycle is in yellow. 2 cycles ago is in green. Our current cycle is in like this purple pink or whatever. And you can see that we are right on track. Like, we are following perfectly, right? So when we're talking about like this cycle hasn't been different, this is what we're talking about right here. This is exactly what we're talking about, where we are right on track with the previous 2 cycles. So again, you can look at this on the terminal. It is extremely clear that this time has not been different. So I just wanted to show you guys this. And I'm going to jump over to the ETH-BTC chart that I made. So here's this one as well, where it's like people have been, shit talking ETH for a while now. And I mean, it's justified, right? ETH has been lagging, but to say that like something is different or that we have, diverged from where we should be is inaccurate, because this is precisely what we're trying to illustrate to you guys, is that like the time for altcoins is now. Look at this. This is Q4 of a halving year, and then Q1 and Q2 following a Bitcoin halving year. You very, very pronounced technical swing low that forms at the very tail end of Q4. And then once we hit Q1 and we start, moving into Q1 and Q2, a quarter's 3 months. You basically have 6 months of froth ahead of you. Look at what's happened in the previous 2 cycles, right? You bottom in Q4, and then you start ripping and moving up in Q1 through Q2, and that's when you get alt season, right? And I can show you the others chart that Louis had here. We can take some measured moves here. Let's get rid of this here.
And to add to that point, I've mentioned it on previous streams as well, but last cycle, 2021, ETH didn't break its previous cycle all-time high until like February. So like, if anything, I think we're going to be ahead of that, right? So I think we're actually going to be a little ahead. I think we're about maybe a couple weeks quicker on this cycle. But again, like you just said, Max, like everyone's saying that, ETH has kind of just been crap in the bed. But I would argue, like, actually not, like, ETH wasn't back above its old all-time high until February, right? So again, pretty much right on schedule as it always is. But the day-to-day emotions of it all gets to people.
Yeah, it does, right? And people have a difficult time differentiating between like, oh, locally it looks like we're pulling back, and oh, I'm still high time frame bullish, right? And there's a disconnect there. But this is, I mean, look at this. It's as clear as day. It's as clear as day to me. Exactly where we're at right now, right? Exactly where we're at. So, in my view, what you're going to see is, a ramp in this blue region in Q1, which now it's January 3rd. We did it, guys. We are now in the year following a Bitcoin halving, which has historically been the most profitable time to be invested in altcoins, as shown by this chart. And we're right on track. Like, we just finished the green. We're looking pretty good. And as we get deeper into Q1, January, February, March, it doesn't mean we won't have like a day that's red or something like that. But just being positioned for at least 6 months out has typically been very, very profitable. So I don't know. I mean, I just don't think that this time is different. I don't, because there's not any evidence to suggest that this time is in fact different. I showed you the Bitcoin cycles chart, and now I'm showing you ETH against Bitcoin from Q4 of a halving year for the next 6 months out, right? So it's basically, in theory, like if you can hold your altcoins from now through, May and June, you're probably going to see much higher valuations unless somehow we diverge at the last second, right?
Right. Yeah. Yeah. Like, contrary to popular belief, like saying that this time is going to be different and we're not going to get this cycle is actually way more outlandish and than saying that we're probably going to get something similar, if not the same. So, but people
Wow,
think it's the other way
Emilio, bro.
around. People think, oh, price going up. Nah, like, not going to happen. Oh, wow. Thanks, Emilio.
That's cool, Emilio. Thanks for doing that, man. I don't know who got the memberships, but that
Yeah.
was
How does
cool
that
that you
work?
did that. I don't know how that works, honestly. But thank you, Emilio. That's really cool. Very generous.
That
Louis,
last
am I
couple.
rugging? Someone said, Max, I'm rugging. Am I okay?
You were a little choppy earlier, but nothing horrible.
But we're back in a big way.
Yeah, we're back. We're back.
We're back in a big way.
But yeah,
Yeah.
I mean, I know it sounds like saying that we're probably going to go up only for 6 months sounds like the crazy and silly idea, but to just say that we're not going to go up and follow the data and the history that we've been looking at, that's actually the silly and crazy idea to me. So it's actually kind of backwards, right? And I think that's the trick that the market plays on everybody, right? So
Yeah.
but
And I mean, I'm just looking at like, I mean, this looks the same to me, like this range right here. Like this looks like we're gonna rip, man. Like I'm looking over here at this range right here, and I've got the 2025 yearly open right here. And I'm looking at this going, man, like we did have a little local Jeet. Here, I'll just remove this right now. We can get rid of it. But I'm looking at this going, yeah, we open the year. This may be your yearly low. I'm not going to lie. Like this may be all the price action that you get below the 2025 open.
yep.
We had a nice little, like, right after the open, we had a little Jeet right into this demand region at the range low. And now we're flipping levels to the top side. So I don't know. I'm sure there's going to be more shakeouts,
Yeah.
but I think that this looks pretty damn good here, right? Like ignoring the yearly open. Like if this was just like a random day and a random month, this is a really beautiful long setup right here. I mean, it looks really good to me. So
Yep. Not really,
I would
really
say
good.
at minimum, you're going to retest the high here. And the real fun begins when you can flip this, right?
Yeah.
And I tweet,
99.5.
yeah. And I tweeted this out this morning. Wow, Andy Bobandy having a day. But this looks so constructive, in my opinion. This is others. We were watching this very closely. Like you're already above on others. So look at this, right? Look at this. Let's pull back up the Bitcoin chart. So if we pull back up the Bitcoin chart and we mark out the same range right here, you can see pretty clearly that like altcoins are already leading Bitcoin in a pretty obvious way, where here's your Bitcoin range. Oops, I got to change to the 4-hour. Here's your Bitcoin range. I'll just delete these for now. Here's others, so your altcoin range, and then here's Bitcoin. You can see that others is already above the range high, and Bitcoin is not quite there yet. So you're seeing already like people are positioning in altcoins more than they are Bitcoin here, and it's only January 3rd. So I think market participants are acutely aware of the dynamics that we should see take form and take hold on this market basically now through Q2, which again is like we just went over the ETH BTC chart. So it should be pretty obvious what's about to happen. But you can see like altcoins are leading already. Altcoins are leading. And then, I go over to something like others dominance. And to me, it looks like we're getting ready for a ripper. You know, this is altcoin market share against majors, basically, like everything outside the top 10. And you can see that we've been doing, again, the same thing that we've been always doing. Like it's the same thing. So I don't know if it makes me a moon boy to just like scream alt season for months on end, then so be it. But
Yeah.
the truth is, like the 70 IQ bulls are going to end up making the most money here. The question is, are you going to be able to like hit the sell button and take some profit at some point?
Yeah.
Most people won't, but I think that crazy far left side of the IQ bell curve moon boy bull is going to look like a genius over the next 6 to 9 months.
Yeah.
And our hope is to kind of like thread that needle between our brains are completely off. We're just moon boying it right now and potentially being savvy and taking some profits when the time comes.
Yeah, that's the hard part. And if you've been around for this isn't your first cycle, I'm sure a lot of us, I'm sure all of us have made mistakes, last cycle, right? And we just got to correct those mistakes, see what we did wrong, and kind of do better this cycle. So, I feel like I feel like a lot of people say this in crypto. It's like the first cycle is where you learn your lessons. The second cycle is where you really make it because you kind of capitalize if you get better and you don't give up, right? But if you capitalize and you learn from your mistakes, the second time around usually is the time where you make the best of everything. So that's what I'm doing, right? This is technically my second cycle. Started investing in 2018, was buying the top of the XRP run to like 350. Came into 2018 fresh out of college. I was like, oh wow, crypto's so cool. Like XRP is gonna be the new thing. Was buying XRP at like 280 in 2018. So yeah, but I stuck around, right? Stuck around 2018, 2019, 2020. Just sticking around, learning more, accumulating the lows, buying up, trusting the cycle. Because I think a lot more people, correct me if I'm wrong, but I feel like a lot more YouTubers and people on Twitter, talked about the 4-year cycle, right? Because that's how I was brought in. That's how I learned, right? And I feel like not many people do that anymore. I feel like I don't know. Maybe that's just me. I'm not, but that's how I kind
I
of got
think
introduced to
because of the bear market of 2022 and 2023 for the first half, like I think a lot of people, I think they began to try to right curve it a little bit too much. Also, like a little, almost to a detriment, right? Not that that stuff doesn't matter, but this idea that like macro contractions, isolated macro contractions deserve more emphasis and weight than simple supply and demand mechanics, right? And they somehow lost their way and forgot that, like, why do we trend up aggressively after a Bitcoin halving? Well, on any average day, one of your largest sellers of Bitcoin is going to be a Bitcoin miner. at the end of the day, right? It doesn't mean that some large whale's not going to sell or institution, but it's like when you have, these giant Bitcoin miners, which on any given day have the potential to be one of the largest sellers of Bitcoin, when overnight the amount of Bitcoin that they have freed up to then enter the market is cut in half, not slowly, but literally overnight. So supply available, new available average daily supply gets cut in half overnight, but demand for this asset remains constant and actually with time should go up. You have supply and demand, econ 101.
Yeah.
What happens when new supply overnight gets cut in half, but demand remains constant or increases, right? So that they're more focused on like, oh, what is like manufacturing numbers doing in like this state,
Yeah.
versus like, oh, this is Bitcoin. It's probably more dependent on like physics and econ than it is like, and I know macro kind of fits into it, right? But they've tried to right curve it too much. Now, I mean, bro, last cycle nobody cared about FOMC at all. Like
No.
nobody cared about FOMC.
Never heard of it. Never heard of it.
No,
Until like 2022.
yeah, but now everybody is like,
Expert. Yeah.
yeah. I mean, everybody's been like psyoped into thinking that like macro will supersede, supply and demand and seasonal cyclicality. So I don't know. I think you need to kind of again thread that needle and do a little bit of both for sure.
Yeah.
Especially as Bitcoin becomes more ingrained in legacy finance, it will begin to at some point trade a little bit more like, I don't know, the S&P or the NASDAQ, but I think we're far from that, right? I really do. And I don't know. I mean, look, there's a lot of different ways to approach this, but I don't think now is the time to like fade seasonality and fade cyclicality, because we already showed you, like, cyclically speaking, this time hasn't been different. And I would almost argue that if you want to make the case that this time is going to be different, it's different in the sense that we have a president, a new former and future sitting president in 2.5 weeks that has a crypto company, has a pro crypto cabinet, and has actually, his crypto company has been buying like legacy altcoins. They own ETH, they own Aave, they own Link, probably own some others, right? So I'm like, do you really are you going to be the guy that's fading Ethereum and altcoins while the next president of the United States is buying it?
Yeah.
I don't think that it's bold to be like, I'm going to just tail the most powerful man on the planet, right? I don't think that that's bold, but some people would be like, oh no, that's like extremely bold. It's a sell signal. I'm like, I don't think you don't have any evidence to suggest that that is a sell signal. I think you need to left curve it and be like, we've never seen anything like this. It might get crazier than anybody expects, but not to the downside, to the upside, right? You might see ETH BTC go above last cycle's all-time high. And another chart that I want to show you guys is this one. God, Pepe looks so good, man.
We might have to stop though before you do that, Max.
Don't tell me, Louis. Is it that bad?
To be honest, they haven't gotten the soybeans in a while, and I think they've gotten complacent because we have about 600 people watching and we have 240 likes. So that's less than half of the people.
Louis, I don't have the energy for this today. Are you serious about the likes? Are they that bad?
Oh yeah.
You're not messing with me? Should I check for myself?
I wouldn't.
Louis, tell me you're lying to me. I can't do this today, man.
I wish I was.
Dude. Okay, so someone explain, if we're talking about simple math, if we're talking about Econ 101, can somebody explain to me how we have 600 people on YouTube watching and we don't even have 300 likes? Can somebody explain to me the disconnect that I'm seeing between the viewership to like ratio? Because I would think that, hey, if we've got 600 watching on YouTube, there's at least twice that on X. More people would actually like the stream, they would appreciate the quality of the content that we're putting out. But there's a huge gap between my expectations and the reality. So if somebody can work through that math for me, I would love to understand. Maybe, you know what? I should probably send YouTube an email right now. I think I'm going to send YouTube an email because there might be an issue on their end, right? There might be like it's not registering likes because I don't believe that the likes are this low. There has to be a tech issue, and it must not be you guys. I know you would never not like the stream. I know that you would never not show up. You would never show up and not hit the like button. So we're going to blame this one on YouTube. I bet there's a tech issue going on. There's just no way. I refuse to believe it. I can't believe it. You know, it's impossible. The math doesn't add up.
Okay, YouTube just registered another 100 likes.
Okay, so it was a YouTube issue then. It must have been.
We're at 350 now, so it was a YouTube issue.
I knew it. I knew it. There's no way, Louis, that our audience would show up and not hit the like button. I knew it had to be.
They wouldn't do that. They wouldn't.
Yeah, it had to be it. I'm sorry that YouTube wasn't registering the likes. I apologize. Okay, I blamed you, and I knew it couldn't have been you guys. It was a glitch. It was clearly a lag. But somebody in the comments a few weeks ago pointed this chart out to me here. So this is ETH BTC, the pair, but it's not the entire history, right? It's just the ETH CME futures chart divided by the Bitcoin CME futures chart. And I find this to be incredibly compelling that if you mark out range high, if you mark out range high and then range low, and you also mark out the opening tick, the first price it was ever traded at right here, you can see the interaction not only with range high and range low, but also the opening tick for the ETH BTC chart, right? And what a coincidence, right? That we swept predatory sweep last cycle of the all-time high, bear market, and then predatory deviation or sweep of the low. I think that you're going to see something like this, where you're going to break up, flip the opening tick, and break out of this diagonal trend line. And I would expect range highs this cycle for this ETH BTC chart. I think this is the secret alpha.
What is this? What is this for? Oh, okay. Oh, there you go. What does this remind you of? Does this remind you of anything that we just saw recently?
The Andy sweep.
kind of. I'm thinking the Pepe Coinbase chart.
Oh, should we pull that one up, Louis?
Yeah, and it's kind of like a similar thing, right? Where you have Bitcoin and ETH now listed on, the stock exchange. You got Pepe listed on a major crypto exchange, and we kind of saw a similar thing, right? It seems to be a playbook where they take out the bulls, take out the bears, trap them both, and then you go for the real move. Classic, market doing its thing, just shaking both sides out before the real move happens. So
damn,
I think that looks very similar.
I think it does too.
Yeah.
Bulls get destroyed, bears get destroyed, and then they send it.
Yep.
So, I mean, Pepe looks great here, man. Pepe looks so good.
I'll be back in 1 second.
Yeah, no problem. Yeah, I mean, looking at this chart, it's really hard to be bearish on Pepe here. It's incredibly difficult because I look at this chart and I'm like, I mean, for one, like looking at the high time frame, let's even go to like the 3-day. It does these incredible retests of the previous all-time high. I mean, look at this one. Look at this one that we had back here in April. Previous all-time high. Right? And then how about this one? It's pretty unreal how this happens time and time again, and people just get shaken out at the worst possible time. The worst possible time. And I will point out to you guys in reference to ETH BTC. And here, let me actually pull up Pepe USD. Pepe has gone on to do absolutely incredible things, despite being at its core, it's ETH beta, right? At its core. So here's ETH BTC. ETH BTC during this same time period. I mean, we'll just go even to current, right? ETH BTC is, since basically Pepe hit the mainstream and was listed on any centralized exchanges, ETH BTC is down, 47%, and to the low, it was 54, right? And during that same period here, actually, I'll make this red. We'll make it pretty since we're here. Why not? Pepe is up during that same time period that ETH BTC is down only. I mean, look at how much Pepe is up during that time, right? People, it's like they still can't wrap their minds around this idea that at its core, we have an ETH beta, premier large cap ETH beta, that's up 16,000% during a time period when ETH has been getting its teeth kicked in against Bitcoin. Can you even fathom what's going to happen to Pepe when ETH BTC starts doing this? This is when it's going to go vertical, right? During the entire history of Pepe, like I don't think it's bold to say like this time actually is different. When we go back into price discovery for Pepe, and the assumption here is that ETH is going to start moving against Bitcoin, which again, I already went over the ETH BTC seasonality chart where you bottom in late Q4 of a halving year and then rip, through Q1 and Q2, and it's January 3rd. I think that this time is going to be different, right? I think this time for Pepe is going to be different. And this was unironically the test pump for Pepe. And here, let me even pull this back up here. Let me pull this back up and show you guys. I will overlay Pepe. Let's do this here. Okay. So here's ETH BTC, right? You guys can see that. Okay. Now let me just show you, because we have to look at Doge within this equation as well, because Doge is the best comparison for Pepe. Pepe is the Doge of this cycle. Doge is the Bitcoin of meme coins, as we've talked about at length on this channel. So let me put this all together for you guys and show you guys where we're really at for Pepe. Okay. Okay. Here is ETH BTC. And actually what I should probably do is I'll put them like this. So here is ETH BTC, just because it's a lot to look at and I want you guys to be able to see the colors. We'll do this. So ETH BTC right here. And then high, low, and we'll make Doge a nice gold. Oops. All right. I can drag this up. Give me a second, guys. I'm going to make this really, really, really pretty and clear for you guys. Because if we're here, we're going to do it the right way. And it's the first market check of the year. We got to get off to a good start here. All right. And then Doge. Now I'm going to add Pepe on here. But first, I'm going to explain what this is. Okay. We know that typically ETH will bottom against Bitcoin in Q4 of a halving year, shown by the green arrows right here, okay? Look at the performance of Doge as we head into Q1. Doge actually performs the best once ETH BTC starts trending, right? This is typically when, and you should view Doge as your meme coin index, all right? Doge is the Bitcoin of memes. When Doge pumps, the entire meme sect or genre gets bid with passion. So now let's move Pepe up here and take a look at it. All right, we'll make Pepe green. Because again, if we're here, we're going to make it pretty and we're going to do it the right way.
What does high-low do? What is that?
It just makes it like You know, like a fractal, like
Yeah.
how the yeah.
Oh, it's like that, like a bars chart.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. So this is actually probably where Pepe is, right? Conditions haven't been prime for Pepe to actually rip, but now they suddenly are, right? So Pepe is most likely like right here or right here, right? Like the best part of the cycle, in theory, should be right now for something like Pepe, which is incredible to say given that it's up, since ETH BTC has been down only minus 50% over like 2.5, 3 years. And Pepe being ETH beta is up 16,000%. Like people still don't realize that like the conditions for Pepe haven't even been prime yet. Like we're not even in the best time to own Pepe yet. Well, now we are. Now that it's Q1. But there's a really solid argument to be made that like the meat of the Pepe returns are going to be from here through Q2. Because look at what Doge has done. That's when it puts in the meat of its move. So hopefully that makes sense to you guys. I mean, it's
so clean.
It's incredible, right? So everybody's like, "Oh, we're getting so overextended." I'm like, you need to shift your mindset and recognize the conditions that we are staring down right now. If ETH BTC rallies hard over the next 6 months and Bitcoin goes to like 200K, Pepe is probably going to over 100 billion market cap. And it is what it is.
That'd be nice.
I would be euphoric, Louis. I'm not gonna lie.
I would be too.
I own a lot of Pepe, bro. I own a lot of Pepe.
Yeah, we've been riding it forever too. I was getting my entry like was it end of 2023?
I mean, we were shoving Pepe down in here, bro. I have videos on this YouTube channel. I posted one on X. I think it was yesterday or the day before. But I was doing TA on Pepe down in here.
Yeah.
Being like, it's going to be the Doge of this cycle. It's going to be the why didn't I buy it bag of this cycle, and people just didn't see it. But now I feel like people are starting to come around and be like, oh, wow, he really saw that a long time ago. And I'm sitting here again telling you that, like, don't mess this up. Don't be psyched out by like the market cap number, because here's the thing is every cycle, the theoretical limitations of what can be accomplished from a market cap perspective, it shifts. Where last cycle, you saw a lot of new like L1s go to 50 to 100 billion, and you saw, the two meme coin titans of our industry. So far, the only two that have been able to do it have been Doge and SHIB, that both went over 50 billion. You're going to see a new kind of glass ceiling be set for what's possible this time around, right? There's going to be that new ceiling where, maybe Pepe goes to 140 billion or something like that, right? And then next cycle we'll be like, oh, well, Pepe went to 140 billion. Now there's a new meme coin, and I think that this new meme coin can do what Pepe did last cycle. It's the same thing that we're doing with Doge right now as it pertains to Pepe, right? So don't be psyoped by like what 4 years ago was possible, right? 50 billion is not what it was 4 years ago. This asset class is much more mature than it was 4 years ago. And the path that was paved by what Doge did last cycle, and arguably what SHIB did last cycle, will probably look very small and insignificant compared to what happens this cycle. I really think that we're going to see the type of mania for meme coins, specifically spearheaded and led by Pepe, where within the top 100 within the top 100 crypto assets by market cap, like 50 of the top 100 will be meme coins. That'll be the kind of mania top signal where I'm like, this might be a little bit overextended, right?
Yeah.
So all I'm trying to convey here is like, that's great, you've been making money, but you've been making money in suboptimal subprime conditions.
Yeah.
And when this ETH BTC chart rallies through Q1 and Q2, that will be optimal conditions for your meme assets to fly, for your beta to fly, for your new L1s to fly. Whatever you've made so far, unironically, may be the test pump. Okay? It may be the test pump. That's what
Yep.
I'm trying to show you with this chart here.
Yeah. And the thing about these market cap valuations in a crypto bull market is, you always get the arguments, like if Pepe goes to, 100 billion, it's going to be larger than X, Y, and Z companies. And these are major companies, in the S&P or the NASDAQ. What you have to understand is, it'll reach those levels, or it can reach those levels, but it's not very like long lived, right? It could like dip it, it could, shoot up to 100 plus billion. But if it is, it might not last that long, because these things always are cyclical and they have blow off euphoria type tops. So it's not like it's going to probably, the likelihood of it staying, at like 150 billion, like for an extended period of time, like multiple months, probably not super likely. So like the whole argument of like, oh, well, it's going to be larger than, a larger market cap than, these large companies. I would just argue that, yeah, I mean, greed gets out of hand, right? Like I said earlier in the show, greed is a real thing. People FOMO at the top. And that's what pushes you to those, massive evaluations, but they don't last that long. So I always thought that argument was kind of skewed. Whereas like a company will be that size and kind of remain around that size, where these altcoins or meme coins, they will run to those valuations, but they will, take a 60-70% hit in a bear market too. So I always thought that argument was a little skewed as well.
Yeah, 100%. 100%. Louis, do you have any charts for us here? I see you got something up in the background. I've been going a little chart heavy.
I mean, ETH is pumping, so we could take a look at ETH. We haven't really looked at ETH. But ETH having a day so far. This is kind of, our macro range view on ETH that we basically been putting in since March of last year now, right? Just a lot of ranging. We lost the range. This was a massive deviation of the range and a reaccumulation. We got back inside our range, went for range highs. Everyone got super bullish up here. We were bullish as well, but we didn't. We failed on the first attempt at a breakout of this range, right? After losing the range lows. But when we did get this move, right? We were back to the mid range, and just looking at this as a macro range, right? Just simple range trading technique or price action, whatever you want to call it. In hindsight, looking back, like to think that, we went from range lows to range highs in just a couple weeks, and to kind of come back to the mid range to regather strength and go for another try, not so outlandish, right? It's kind of pretty much normal price action. And that's what I was kind of preaching when we were down here. Everyone was getting super bearish. And now we're starting to push back above the mid range. We lost it slightly, deviated it, got back above. And now that we're back above, now we're starting to see a big push, right? And this is something I've been stressing to, our guys in the Discord, is that, like, we needed to flip get back above the mid range. And then we should start seeing a push back to the upside, which should, in theory, give us another shot at range highs. Lower time frame, this is kind of what we're looking at, right? Red line represents our mid range. And this structure right here, you guys should study this, right? I know we say study this, study that as kind of like a meme, but seriously, this is like one of my favorite bottoming patterns. Ascending triangle, a rising demand into a flat top. And a lot of the times that these end up, creating a pivot low on any chart you're kind of looking at. So we are back above the mid range, got back above. Now we're seeing that price push back to the upside. And I think 3,600, where we are right now, this is our key supply resistance flip, in my opinion, right? Basically, getting back above 3,600, puts us back into this upper quarter range, right, of our macro range. We reclaim these lows that we lost back here, get back above here. And that's kind of like our last, boss before, once we get back above here, we should be able to get back to range highs and go for another, breakout attempt of the range. So, ETH looks really good here, pushing, trying to break out from this formation while at the same time, reclaiming key, what is now resistance, trying to flip it into support. And if we can close the day, above here, like anywhere looking like this, I think we have a great shot of heading back to range highs over the next couple of weeks. And we will probably see, just like we showed at the beginning of the show, where January, is usually a very bullish month for ETH, as well as February, March, and even sometimes April, right? So everything kind of falling into place with a beautiful bottoming pattern put in here. And in hindsight, this just like, again, just normal range trading type of environment. And looking back, it'll look like in hindsight, like, oh, wow, that was obviously just, a failed breakout back to mid range and then go for the real breakout. So yeah, I mean, ETH looking really good here. So love to see, a daily close above 3,600 today. And I think that will set up, that would be a great setup for ETH to start heading its climb back to, range highs. So ETH looking really good here. And just kind of lining up with what we have been saying, right? So ETH looks really good.
Yeah, it does. And I think the real fun for ETH begins above 4K. I know we're flipping some local levels, but when ETH flips that 4K level, I mean,
yeah, and the 4K is this range
that's
high.
when the real fun begins.
Yeah. Break this range. And then, let's go to this chart. This is a weekly chart that we were looking at when we were back at range highs. And it's this red box, right? This red box, major resistance, a major level on the chart that goes all the way back to last bull run, right? Back to 2021. So this is a significant level, right? As well as confluent with, this falling trend line here that we've been trying to get back above since 2021, right? Multiple attempts here, failed, another try here, a small rejection, but I don't see anything stopping ETH from, after this small rejection we just saw, getting back above, reclaim this falling trend. And then, once we get back above this red box, which is that 4K level Max was just talking about, that's kind of like our last major resistance on the chart. Like this isn't much. Like this is not much market structure here. So back above 4K, it's pretty much blue skies for ETH. So another chart kind of showing what we're looking like on the weekly, which is a higher time frame, more confluence, right?
And Louis, another chart that I was looking at this morning was actually ETH paired against SPX.
I don't know if really like that chart. I saw that and I was like, wow, that's a sick chart.
Yeah, you should pull that one up.
Oh, yours looks so nice though.
You want me to pull it up?
Oh yeah.
I don't want you to pull it up.
You're the pair chart specialist.
I mean, let me see. All right. Here's the thing, man. Like everybody has their opinions about like what is fundamental, what has value, what doesn't, and it just none of it matters. It's just how the chart looks, right? So when I look at this chart, I'm going, okay, this is going to break up in a big way in the not too distant future here. Like this is a bull, like this is the bull flag of glory right here. So this is ETH against SPX, right? So if anybody is like, oh, well, I think that SPX looks heavy here, or, it just doesn't, I mean, this is what you need to focus on this is an embodiment of the asset rotations that we're always yapping about here on this show, where money will start in, the NASDAQ and S&P, and then go down to small caps, and then Bitcoin, and then, now altcoins. And this is what we're talking about, where you've had ETH, bull flagging right here against the S&P 500. So reaccumulating bullishly against the S&P 500, going all the way back to last cycle. This is not like one cycle and another cycle. This is a global cycle, right? Now we have ETFs available, all this kind of stuff. We have now a 4-year bull flag of ETH against the S&P, right? So I look at this and I'm like, man, this is gonna see new highs, like this is huge, right? So I was just looking at this morning, and it's pretty unbelievable, man. It's unbelievable. And like, if we want to look at it a little differently here too, this is not ETH USD. This is ETH against the stock market, right? So let's pull up SPX down below. So here's ETH. Here's ETH against SPX up top, and then here's SPX down below. And what the stock market is doing is we're probably in. Here, let me just change that to black. We're probably in one of these grind up periods right here that you just don't know how long it's going to last for, right? Like, it can last for a long, long time, where you're just in this like tight mechanical grind higher. And we're not even at the previous all-time high yet for ETH SPX. Here it is right here. Oops, I'll make it the same. So we're not even there yet, right? And I showed you guys how we had that, giant linear bull flag that, we were going to break out of. But we're basically like right in here. We're like somewhere in this region, or about to be. So I'm just like, don't fade these charts. Like, they play out every single cycle, and it's looking really good. Like, it's going to play out again. So this is my favorite view of it right here. Like, and people will deny doing TA and just be like, staunch fundamentalists, and be like, it doesn't have any value, and ETH doesn't have any cash flow, and blah, 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 blah. And I'm like, okay, great. However, is it a coincidence and a conspiracy that I can draw this giant bull flag and it's working, right? Why can I draw this bull flag on ETH against SPX and it works? And it's been working since 2021. How can you possibly fade that or deny that and tell me that TA doesn't work? And like, here's the problem with it, man, is we're living in a time where there's so much subjectivity and gray area surrounding what value is, what an asset is. And like, clearly big money is watching these charts, right? Like, people are selling the S&P 500 to buy ETH when TradingView Trendline makes bounce. And they're doing it in such a serious capacity that we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 taps on the upper trend line, and 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.5 taps on the lower trend line, going back 4 years. And people are still trying to say that TA doesn't matter, and that the only asset that has any value is Bitcoin or stocks or something like that. And I'm like, in a stubborn way, you are shooting yourself in the foot with that mindset. Like, I'm not suggesting that ETH is better than the S&P 500. You can't compare the two. But what I am suggesting is that in this era of highly subjective valuations and what value is at its core, there is people that are playing both in a very serious way. And if you can understand how capital flows and how big money is positioning in the S&P 500 flowing through all the way to crypto, you're going to beat the market time and time and time and time again, right? You cannot discount this bull flag on ETH against the S&P 500, and it's not some giant coincidence that it's happening. A giant move is brewing, right? It's not random. It's not, and it's certainly not a coincidence.
Yep. And that goes kind of back to what I was saying earlier with the greed. Like, there's a lot of people, like the stock market, again, going on a historical run for the past 2 years. Like, eventually that big money, and it's not like your average CT, like retail investors, right? This is big money, right? And big money that's able to move the market in a big way. And they're going to look to capitalize on making gains on top of their gains, right? And that's also why we see like IWM and low cap stocks usually pumping around this time as well, right? That haven't really performed as great as, the rest of the market as far as S&P, NASDAQ, Dow are concerned. So again, if as long as greed exists and as long as these things, trade cyclically with one another, we should still continue to see, similar trading price action. And these guys are going to try to make money with which now is house money, right? I've talked about this before in spaces where it's kind of like you're at a casino, right? And you're gambling. Like if you're gambling at a casino and you start to get up, up on the casino early and you're making money early, like what do you do? Like, do you like just get up and walk away, or do you go, okay, I'm up money. Now, let's make some money with house money, right? I could be a little more risky because it's profits I'm playing with. So maybe take more riskier bets, maybe bet bigger. And that's kind of how the human psychology works. And it works in markets as well, right? So that's why I always use that analogy where, people are up big, on legacy stocks, and stuff like that. And that money is going to eventually flow down the risk curve as people take profits. And you could see it, right? We've seen kind of a slowing down of the S&P and the NASDAQ over the last month or so, because people are taking profits, right? But again, like they're not just going to sit in cash. They're not just going to sit in cash. So this money's going to flow somewhere. The money's going to flow somewhere.
And this is another perfect example of like the rotations that we're seeing at play here, where this is Bitcoin adjusted or divided or paired against the M1 money supply, and then here's ETH. Is it a coincidence that this trend line right here has been suppressing price, going back to 2018, and then we finally flipped it right here, and now we're, making new highs? Is the same thing going to happen to ETH? Probably, right? It's the same thing. Right? It's the same thing. It's just that ETH is again lagging Bitcoin, and this is the breakout cycle. Like this is when things get absolutely out of control and go nuts, right? This is just another prime example, right? Like smart money is watching these charts. Like big money is watching this chart, and ETH is probably going to break out against the M1 just like Bitcoin did and do the exact same thing. You can only fade it for so long.
Looks great. Looks great.
Yeah, don't be psyoped out of your altcoin bags by the fundamentalist, right? Don't do it. There's no such thing as fundamentals right now. There's a time and a place for fundamentals.
Yep.
And here's the thing, like this company is called because Bitcoin, okay? Like all your profits ultimately should flow back into Bitcoin, right? Bitcoin's the only crypto asset that at this stage I have confidence in suggesting like, hey, it will probably be here in 100 years and hopefully thriving. I don't know about the other ones yet, okay? But like I mentioned, in this age of extreme subjectivity and this very hazy gray area around like what is value, and again, that's not created by crypto guys. What that stems from is the debasement of fiat currency and the necessity to find alternatives to basically outpace your debasement, right? And it's gone down and sort of regressed to a degree where people are now like, they started with, oh, well, I don't want to hold cash, it's being debased, I'll hold stocks. Okay, well, now, my blue chip is not performing that well, I'll buy, shitcos. And then crypto came around and it's like, okay, well, now I have better money, I'm going to buy Bitcoin. And now it's like, well, all right, now I have meme coins, which are basically small, community run Forex pairs. So it's like, it's just regressed to this point of like extreme cynicism where, I wouldn't fade that, right? Like things can get a lot more crazy before they kind of return to, reality. So, I mean, I think that's a lot of what we're seeing here is just like everything has value because nothing has value. Or let me rephrase it. Everything has value because the thing that they've told you has value doesn't actually have any value, right? So the thing that you're valuing your stuff in has no value. So you have to just kind of like speculate wildly on like what could be. So
yeah.
I don't know, man. It's a really weird time to be investing, but this is why you need to learn technical analysis, because if you're a fundamentalist, you are living in the wrong age, my friend. The time to be a fundamentalist died in like the 50s and 60s. Value investing has changed forever, and I don't know if it's ever coming back until they actually fix our money. So it's like,
yeah,
everything has tremendous value because the thing that we're valuing our money, our assets in, has no value. So this is the golden bull run. Like, this is it. This is when things get absolutely out of control, in my opinion, because our money is broken. It's cooked, it's fried, and it's not going to change anytime soon.
Yeah. If the Ponzi remains the same, Ponzi's going to continue to Ponzi.
Yeah, that's right.
And we have an emerging asset class to capitalize on with, right? It's like a new branch of the casino just opened, right? It's like Max was saying, like, yeah, they used to have stocks, they had commodities. Well, now they have a whole nother asset class to utilize, right? Which is crypto. So yeah.
Yeah, they do. Yes, they do. All right, guys. And that is going to take us into the end of the show, guys. Before you guys leave, consider checking out the link in the description below to our website where you can browse our premium offerings, guys. We showed you some charts today from the BB terminal. We are adding hundreds of new indicators to it. It is truly your all-in-one Swiss Army knife of indicators, premium stuff that you can't really just find anywhere. All conveniently packaged into one super website, guys. And if you are really looking to take that next step and take your trading and investing to the next level, check out the Discord packages. I would highly encourage you to check out the more expensive one. I know it's a lot, but there's a reason that we have an 80+% lifetime member retention rate, guys. What you could expect out of the $399 package there is you get the BB terminal included in that membership for no additional cost. But you're going to get positional updates and alerts channels from me, Louis, the entire BB team, all of our analysts, everything. Plus, over 3 hours per day of private live voice calls. They're conference calls with me, Louis, and the entire BB team, guys. We meet every morning and every afternoon to dissect everything that's going on in these markets, chart requests, Q&A. It's don't conflate what we're doing with other Discords that maybe you've been in. It's completely different. We just use Discord because it's convenient and the UI is nice and familiar. It's an entirely different product, right? So you will see very quickly when you join why we charge what we charge. You will have no question about where the value comes from. And don't think of it as a negative, like, oh, I'm paying for this, I'm down this much per month. No, it's an asset, right? People join and they stay because they're covering their cost of membership and then some. This market is simply too big to navigate alone. I encourage you to find your group, a group of people that you can trust and lean on, find alpha from, and navigate these markets with. And if we're not that group for you, then that's okay. But find your group out there, right? Everybody needs a group that they can lean on and navigate markets with. We want to be that group for you. And again, we spent hundreds of thousands of dollars building out a custom trading terminal, which we are making, in my view, the best all-in-one crypto product. given to our Discord community for no additional cost, guys. It is absolutely fantastic. All right, so definitely check that out sooner rather than later. We keep bumping up the price every single quarter because we keep getting more members and we don't want it to become too crowded. So get in before prices go up again. And again, I showed you some BB terminal charts, guys. It is an absolutely fantastic product. So check that out. Find your group. You need people to lean on. We want to be those people for you. Additionally, if you're like, hey, you know what, these guys are great. I want to venture down to the altcoin casino with them, but I'm working a job and I got a family or I'm too busy. Well, guess what? We also have an SEC registered hedge fund called BB Wealth Management, guys. The link to the X account is in the description below. You can click on the link in the bio and set up a call with us, or we can email and we can answer any questions about that for you, right? So it can accomplish one of two things or maybe both, right? One, you might be like, hey, I know these guys are winners. I've been watching the show for a while. They've got a great track record. They're crushing it. I'd like them to manage money for me. I don't have time to navigate this market and get into some of these plays with them. We can take that off of your hands, bear that responsibility, and actually manage money for you. Additionally, you could look at it and go, hey, you know what? I know these guys are great. I'm managing some of my own money. It's going well, but I want to diversify a little bit, right? Let the BB guys diversify your portfolio for you and actually manage some of that capital for you. So guys, join us somewhere. Check out the BB Terminal Plus Telegram. Check out the BB Terminal Telegram and Discord packages. I would highly encourage you to try out the gold package. We have a lot of people sign up for the silver and immediately upgrade to the gold, and you will see why. But neither that's for you, definitely consider checking out BB Wealth Management. But guys, welcome to 2025. I have a feeling this is going to be a big year. I couldn't be more excited. And guys, thanks so much for being here. Have a great weekend, and we will see you guys Monday. Everybody, take care.